How do we fix that? Who do we talk to? Hello, we are in Echo Park, and we're doing a short interview with Matt from Anarchist Black Cross. Matt, what is going on today?
Today we are actually having an event called Running Down the Walls. It's a 5K run to raise money and awareness about political prisoners incarcerated in North America.
Okay. Before we get to Running Down the Wall, Anarchist Black Cross is the longest running group in Southern California.
Yes, we have been around since 1998. We're the longest running anarchist organization in Los Angeles. Yes.
What happened to all the other anarchist collective and organization that used to be around now?
I think that a lot of the organizations just sort of disbanded, moved on, got involved in other stuff. I can't really say about other organizations. I just know that we've continued to do the work and continue to support the prisoners.
How did you guys stay together this long?
I think it's about being dedicated to the cause. I think the reality is that the work that we're doing is very focused on providing support to a specific community and being committed long-term and having long-term goals about us doing that, right? We're committed short and long-term to supporting political prisoners. And if that means 20 years, that means 20 years now. If that means 20 years more, that's exactly what we're going to do.
Running Down the Walls, can you give us a little bit more information? Because a lot of people never heard about this.
So in 1999, one of our members came up with the idea of doing something athletic as a way to bring the plight of political prisoners in a much more sort of out of the shows, but more out onto the streets and doing something that's athletic, something's fun, something that's a little bit lighthearted. And so the idea of Running Down the Walls came into fruition. So our first Running Down the Walls, the idea came in '98. First Running Down the Walls started in 1999. And as part of that, the prisoners in various different prisons, whether we're talking about Leavenworth, if we're talking about Colorado, they actually started organizing runs inside the prisons as well and began utilizing that as a tool for organizing within the prisons. So now has spread to other cities. New York's having a run, Denver's having a run, Chicago's having a run. We've got about 6 or 7 other cities that are doing a run in solidarity with LA's run.
How many people ran today, and how long is the jog, and how much did you guys raise today about?
So it's a 5K run, which is a little bit more than, I think it's roughly a little bit more than 3 miles. And we had about 20 runners today, and we were able to raise about $900, I think is what we're looking at right now.
What do you guys do with that money?
All of the money actually goes to a program called the War Chest. And the War Chest is an A.B.C. Anarchist Black Cross Federation organization or program, and what it does is it sends monthly stipends to political prisoners who receive little or no financial aid. So right now we've got 12 prisoners that are on our list, and every month we send them stipends as a way to sort of just help them during their incarceration.
What is a political prisoner?
A political prisoner is an individual who's been incarcerated because of their political action, or somebody who's been targeted and imprisoned because of their political ideology. A lot of the prisoners that we do work with are former members or were members of the Black Panther Party, Black Liberation Army, Puerto Rican Independence Movement, Anti-Globalization Movement, Chicano Movement, and these are individuals that sometimes have short sentences, like a few years, and other people that have been incarcerated since 1968-69.
You've been involved with working with organizations for a long time. How do you deal with working with other organizations or individuals, like seeing all in the past years, like group fights or somebody not getting along with a certain group and stuff, and like call outs and all that kind of stuff? How do you deal with that?
Well, I think with us and A.B.C., once again, as our focus is supporting political prisoners incarcerated in the U.S. And so, part of that is about trying to build large coalition or broad coalitions with various different organizations and communities. So, one of the things that we do is we try to find points of unity with certain groups and focus our time and energy on building those alliances with those groups. We don't necessarily have to work with all organizations, but at the end of the day, we look at organizations that we can find as sister or brother organizations, and we try to build the bridges and strengthen the bridges with those groups.
What about like individuals and people who don't really want to work with organizations? but they want to help out and like support political groups. What
So,
can they do?
well, I think one of the things that they can do is they can, reach out to the political prisoners. If you look at abcf.net, we provide a list of the political prisoners that are currently incarcerated in North America, and you can actually reach out to them, build relationships with them, and try to do what you can to build support for them. You don't need to be a member of an organization. You just need to care and be committed to actually building support, building support for these individuals. That's what's most important.
And also, the name is Anarchist Black Cross. When did Anarchist Black Cross started?
So the Anarchist Black Cross dates back to actually pre-Russian Revolution, actually 1905, the 1905 Revolution. It was a spin-off of a group called the Political Red Cross, and anarchists were not being supported through the Political Red Cross. So around 1905, it broke away and developed, started off as the Anarchist Red Cross, then later on, around the 1920s, changed their name to the Anarchist Black Cross. Has continued throughout most of the 20th century. There was a brief period during the 1950s where it stopped, but then in 1967, it started up again in London, and that has continued to grow. And now it's all over the world.
And people who don't know what anarchism means, how would you explain anarchy? Because you got so much bad publicity from newspapers and media. When people think about anarchy, they just think about rioting, breaking stuff, all like that. How would you describe anarchism?
One of the ways that I describe anarchism to most people is that anarchism is sort of an analysis. It's the way you look at the world. If you look at Marxism looks at things from a class perspective, right? And that's the sort of the frame. That's the sort of the pair of glasses, if you will, that they see the world. Anarchism, we look at power, whether it's sexism, homophobia, heterosexism, class, colonialism, all these different kinds of power dynamics that play out. And so we look at these things and we see that that when you have a situation where one person has more power than the other, that it creates an unhealthy dynamic. And so we advocate the idea of developing healthy dynamics. And so, these things like sexism, homophobia, class, these are things that we challenge, but we also try to find organizationally how we can actually organize in a horizontal way. So, there's several ways. One is about how we look at the world and the tool or analysis that we use, which is sort of challenging power dynamics and the way power dynamics exist. But then also trying to find institutions, try to find different sort of cultural shifts that promote a more healthier, balanced way of interacting with one another, and moving from that to a much larger societal level. So to me, that's what anarchism is.
If somebody wanted to get in touch, get involved, how could they reach ABC?
So they can reach ABC by looking at abcf.net, which is our website. Also, that's where we have a list of political prisoners. Also, you can email us at lablackcross@gmail.com. So lablackcross@gmail.com.
Really quick. So the political prisoners, before we go, like people only know like the mainstream, the mainstream and stuff. They just know about Leonard Peltier and Miyabuchi and
Right.
stuff. How many different political prisoners do ABC support? Also, you guys also support non-anarchist prisoners too.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of anarchist political prisoners that we do work with. I mean, our focus generally tends to be on the individuals that tend to be long-term. So oftentimes that generally tends to be members that were like Black Panthers, like Chip Fitzgerald's been in prison since 1969. So that's folks like that are folks that we definitely support. But then Bill Dunn's an anti-authoritarian political prisoner, and he's one of the main people that we do work with. We try, like if they're an anarchist political prisoner, they're from our own community, so we're going to support them. But we also recognize the fact that sometimes, at least, oftentimes political prisoners that have been there the longest aren't necessarily anarchists. And while we don't necessarily agree with them politically, we recognize the fact that we need to support them despite our political disagreements. But yes, we support anarchist, class war, anti-colonial, anti-racist political prisoners.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.